I'm clearly struggling. I can't do this. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I post about all the books that I read. This week's video is obviously going to be my July reading wrap up, and July was a weird reading month, honestly, for me. It felt good. I did get through a total of 11 books, which is good. That is a good amount of books to have read. However, it just feels off about it. Something about this month that just felt off, and it wasn't a reading slump per se because I was reading books that I was enjoying and I kept wanting to pick up books. I think I was just busy and it felt like when I did pick up a book, I read like 4 pages and then I had to go do something. So it wasn't the kind of like binge reading that I'm used to. That's honestly so fine. It's also besides the point. I'm just gonna tell you guys what I read, a little bit about the book, and how I felt about it. It's usually how these kind of videos go. I'm so hot in my room right now. I do not know what's happening. Like, I know it's not hot in here, but I'm just like, maybe I'm just dehydrated. Anyways, like I said, I read 11 books this month, which is good and I'm happy about. But I had filmed a TBR video for July and I had put 18 books on there. So dumb of me. Never doing that again. I think putting a number for me just doesn't really work. I'm not a numbers gal. In all the ways, I can't do math and I can't stick to a number at TBR. Anyways, I also did that. TikTok filters picks my reads. And I did get through a lot of those because there were only, I think, 9 books on that. And I think I got through, let's see, I got through 6 of the 9 books that I had TikTok pick for me, which I'm happy about. There are also like, the books that I didn't get to were the ones that were out of my comfort zone. Surprise, surprise, because I just wasn't feeling like picking them up. But we'll talk about those in a little bit. Let's just get into what I read. I read a lot of books on my Kindle because I did travel a little bit this month and I feel like whenever I'm traveling I just usually stick to my Kindle. So I read a lot on my Kindle. I was tied with my Kindle. I'm always tied with my Kindle. I love reading on my Kindle. I think if you ever need a Kindle Unlimited recommendation, watch any of my videos because half of the books I read are usually on my Kindle just out of convenience and they're free, kind of. I mean, they're pretty much free. I just read on my Kindle at the nail salon actually, and I've never read while getting my nails done before, but it was kind of nice. I just had her in my lap and I was like click and then click. So I just switch hands. Anyway, that's besides the point. The first book that I read in July was Her Soul to Take by Haley LaRue, and I gave this a 3.25 stars because it was kind of weird. I was kind of in my comfort zone, but not like too much in my comfort zone. It was just weird. Like, I didn't really know what to expect. It was about a demon and a girl who like hunts ghosts, a ghost hunter in this creepy town in like Seattle or somewhere in like Washington or Oregon or one of those states that they always use for creepy like demon stuff. They always use those states. Anyway, I'd say that this is kind of like, it wasn't an enemies to lovers, but maybe Grumpy Sunshine, except for the girl wasn't sunshine, she was like rain. She was sunshine, I was midnight. Wait, how does the song go? That song go? He was sunshine, I was midnight rain. Is that how it was? Basically, it was that song. It was midnight rain. It was Taylor Swift's Midnight Rain personified. It wasn't about. I am losing my mind today. Like, I am losing my mind. I literally don't know what's happening, guys. I can do this. I can do this. Back. I had a quick intermission. I went and just got ice for my water because maybe that'll help for me literally overheating right now. Anyway, Her Soul to Take was an intense book. Our female main character like goes back to her hometown for school and she somehow is like blood related to this weird culty situation that worships like a deranged old world god, and they're basically just like trying to kill it, but also like the demon's trying to protect her, and it's weird because usually demons don't have feelings for human girls. And yeah, the spice level, it's pretty high. I surprised myself by rating it 3.25 stars just because I was like kind of uncomfortable reading it sometimes. That sounds really bad, but it was good. I don't think I'm gonna go ahead and read the other ones that she's written in that series, kind of interconnected series, because it does end in a way that you don't have to go on to the next books. So that was good. And then after that, I read my first physical book of the month, and that was Happy Place. And I love Emily Henry's. It was so fun to read this. I feel like I'm the last person to read this in the world, but or just the last person to talk about it, I guess. These first two books I read when I was on vacation, and they're in a vlog of that, my 4th of July vacation. But this was really fun to read at the pool. I did give it a 4 stars, which is kind of low for me for an Emily Henry book. Usually they're all 5 stars. But there was just something about their relationship that was off to me. It felt very much, I don't know, I can't even remember. Like this book just didn't stick with me. When I think about this book, I really don't think about anything. Like I think about like Montauk, because I'm pretty sure they went northern New York area, East Coast, but that's pretty much all I know about it. I did like the vibes, I liked the summer, I obviously liked it, I rated it 4 stars. And I honestly think that it was mainly the main character. Yeah, it was Harriet and Wynne. Like I just didn't like either of our main characters, and I didn't like the reason that they weren't together anymore, and I didn't like the way that we found out. Like I just wasn't obsessed. That's really all I can say. Emily Henry's banter, her writing style is always amazing. I just wasn't obsessed with this couple, but I did like the friend group. I thought that was really fun. I definitely like the friendship dynamic. It just felt very relatable, I guess. Not even relatable to me per se, but I just feel like she writes things very honestly, and like that would happen. So it was a good book, and I just love the cover. I love it. It's hot pink, and now I own all of Emily Henry's books, except this is the only hardcover. I'm sorry guys, my mind is just spiraling right now, so if this is the most chaotic reading wrap you've ever seen, I apologize. While I'm literally dying of heat stroke, I don't know what is happening. I know that my house is cooled. I'm literally just internally dying. And then I went back and read on my Kindle. I read this book called Again, and this is a really short novella. It was only 136 pages. Only 136 pages, but I gave it 3 stars, which I feel like is high for being that short. And I gave it 3 stars because it was just it was so well written for being that short and so concise. The book is about a couple who got divorced, and then they're both going to their siblings' marriage because their siblings are getting married. Confusing, I know, but they end up both being there, and it's literally just them. Like it's a very intimate wedding, and it's just this little small group. It was kind of the same when they had gotten married, and they're kind of reminiscing, and you get that the male MC wants to get his ex-wife back, and it's basically just retelling their romance, how it was, how it is now, and how he wants it to be and what he wants to get back to. And it plays on the miscommunication trope, which kind of irks me, but the way that they reconciled at the end was very satisfying, and I liked it. Both sides of the couple were actually like really sweet. The girl, I can't remember their names because they were so short, they didn't get in my soul, you know, kind of like that. She was a freelance photographer for weddings, which was really cool, and then he owned a restaurant, which is just like cool things about them. And yeah, but I think it got 3 stars because a book that short can't really have the potential or capacity to get that much higher, even though it was a little bit deeper and was a very good book. It just wasn't enough. It didn't get, if it was like maybe 200 pages longer, it would have been maybe even a 5 star. I don't know. I definitely would read another book by J.L. Seeger. That was the author. I did not even say that. What is wrong with me? Yeah, but that was a second chance romance trope. And I think this one was technically second chance romance too. The next book I read in July was Legendborn. This one took me a while to read, but I did love it. This young adult fantasy. It was so interesting. It had King Arthur mythology? I think it's mythology. It's not history. I do not think it's history because it had magic, yeah. Not me having to check myself. I gave this a 3.7 stars because I just liked the story as a whole, but I think it had the potential to be even higher, except for the kind of relationships, and also our main character Bree got a little annoying. She did some things that I was like, okay. And then after that I went back to my Kindle again. I read Beat by Beat, which was another one from my TikTok TBR video. This one was the 5th part of a series, the 5th book in a series, so that kind of made the whole storyline a little difficult for me to like grab onto, because there was so much that had built up to this book that I was just not privy to, and I was like, what? There were so many siblings and so many wives and so many children in this book, and all the characters made it really confusing, and I think that's what lowered my rating to 2.5 rather than a 3, but I did give it 2.5 stars. It was good. I did enjoy reading it. I think it's just one where I enjoyed reading it, but I just know that it wasn't that quality of a book. But it was a single mom trope and like golden retriever, single youngest brother kind of thing, and they were really sweet. He was like part of a rich family, and she was kind of down on her luck, and he sees her, and fate just so happens, and he wants to help her out. It's really sweet. It was a fun read. It was a good read, but it wasn't anything really deeper than that, and I feel like I had a lot of those books this month. But that one was really quick for me to read too. I think it's just because it was simple. And then after that I read Red Queen, and I read the first book in the Red Queen series, and I loved it. I know that this is a popular series, but I just don't hear people talking about it anymore. Oh my gosh, you guys, if you need a fantasy series, young adult fantasy, a new one, oh my gosh, it is so good. It is so good. I surprised myself even picking this up. This is a part of that video, but I'm glad that it made me pick it up, you know. Fate and all, everything that's meant to be will be. I rated this a 4.5 stars, and I just love Mare. She's such a fun, powerful woman character, and she's like, I mean, not woman, she's like 18. She's young. She's younger than I am, but she was really cool and really fun to get to know and learn about. And basically she's living in this world where the color of your blood signifies if you're like basically poor and can't do anything, or if you're like have magical powers and rule the entire like country or whatever. And she has red blood, which is like basic normal blood, and then silver bloods are like crazy and they can control metal, or they can control water, or they can control fire and stuff like that. There's even ones that control your mind, like it's not just elemental stuff. And basically they'll also, like, this book starts out where if you're 18 you're sent off to a fight in the war against someone else. I don't even remember, and it's really dumb, but she's like, I do not want that for me. I do not want to. I don't know why I'm using all these voices. They probably sound a lot better than that, not like whatever I'm doing. She's like, I don't want to be sent to war. So she goes and tries to find like a job or something else that she can do. Dude, I do this in all my videos. I just can't get over it. I just can't. What is happening? I'm losing my mind, you guys. I love you guys. Stick with me, please. Stick with me, please. We're almost through. We're at least halfway through the 11 books I read. So we got this. Yeah, overall I really love this book. She gets sent to work at the castle, has this relationship with both the young brothers, the princes, to the Silver King, and she learns that she has a power of her own, which is weird because red bloods do not get magical powers. They do not get cool powers. And everyone's like, whoa, what are you? She's like, what am I? And then she figures, she learns about herself. She learns to control her powers, and she learns about how corrupted her whole country is. She's like, I'm gonna do something about it. This book's really fun. And then after the Red Queen, I did not read the next book. But I will tell you about the next books because then they're just together. Then after the Red Queen, I read Glass Sword, and then I read King's Cage. Glass Sword, I gave a 4.5 stars. Obviously, I liked it again. This one, I don't even remember what was happening. Someone goes against her. I can't really tell you much about this book because it would obviously be a spoiler for the whole first book. Anything that I tell you in this book is a spoiler. I'm not gonna really tell you anything. They kind of all leave off on a cliffhanger. Not like something that's like urges you to read on, but like you don't know how things are going to end in this book, and you don't really have a clear path of what the next steps are going to be, which is always fun for me. It kept me engaged. This one had a little bit more romance. I only put little tabs on the romance, so there's something with the oldest brother, and it's very fun to watch that unfold. And this one, yeah, it was a 4.5. Another fun read. And then we get to King's Cage. This one I gave a 3 stars because it was a lot of war, and for some reason I wasn't into the politics of this book. I was kind of over it. Also, the way that it began was really slow. It was one of those where the two main characters are split apart, and you're like, that happens in every single fantasy book that happens. I'm learning all the things that happen in all these fantasy books. And then there's a bunch of war at the end. And it was just a little too crazy for me, but the action, I read these in my 24-hour readathon too. The action happens in this much of the book, like the intense action. So then it gets you through it, and then it makes you want to read the next book. So I'm definitely going to read Warstorm very soon, as soon as I finish the book that I'm reading right now. Yeah, so that series is really good, and I really like it. I think the fact that I was reading those during a 24-hour readathon may have affected the ratings, may have a little bit of something to do with it. Those are kind of, you know, it's a good series overall. Okay, and then I read Minx on my Kindle, again, by Sophie Lark, and I gave this a 3 stars just because those kind of romances don't really ever get super high ratings for me. I don't know. It was just a different one. It's about an escort and a really rich guy. It's definitely interesting, and they do bond like emotionally, which was really interesting and surprising to me just to even read about in like a deep and good way. But I gave it a 3 stars, and it's a shorter book. I read it on my Kindle. It was interesting. I read it pretty quickly, but I definitely I gave it a chance because I love the Brutal Birthright series, and I'm definitely excited to start the one about their kids, but I wanted to read Minx first. The next book that I read was another one. I think the rest of them are on my Kindle. I'm sorry guys, I have nothing to like show you. So I started To Hate Adam Connor. I've already read To Love Jason Thorne, and I loved To Hate Adam Connor. I think I liked it more than To Love Jason Thorne. This was by Ella Mays, and I love Ella Mays. I just am obsessed with her. She writes stuff that just speaks to me. This was a forced proximity romance for sure because they were next door neighbors. And guess what, guys? I gave To Hate Adam Connor 5 stars. One whopping 5-star read for the month of July, which I'm very happy with. But I gave it 5 stars because, for one reason and one reason alone, just kidding, it was a really good book overall. But it didn't have 4th act, 3rd act, whatever it is, conflict. Breakup. It didn't have whatever that last breakup conflict is. Maybe they had a small fight. I actually don't even think that they did. But it literally just, it just spoke to my heart because I was loving it so much, and then it didn't have that, and I was like, yep, 5 stars, check. All my kisses go to Hate Adam Connor. Read it, To Hate Adam Connor. It's about a single dad and the girl who doesn't have a job living in the backyard of the neighbors of Adam Connor, if that makes sense. But it is just so cute, and Adam is just so practical for that little boy. And little boy, the one thing was the little boy kind of talked like, I was like, no one would, I don't know if a kid would say that. Or it was just so extra lovey that I was like, yeah. Kids are evil sometimes. You gotta make them a little mean. It was a really good book and I really enjoyed it, and I think I read it pretty fast. Like, that was one of the ones that I was reading well into the late nights on my Kindle. After that, I read Sincerely Your Inconvenient Wife again on my Kindle. I think this one is by Julia Wolf, I believe is who this is by. And I'm also reading Dear Grumpy Boss, which is the first one in the series that is also by her. And I'm about 50% of the way through everything on my Kindle. But Sincerely Your Inconvenient Wife got a 4.75 stars from me because it was so good. And literally reading about the main character, Cersei, just to sound like reading about myself. Like, I just loved her and I feel like I connected so much with her. So that was really fun. And the main character guy was really fun. And this one was also a marriage of convenience, which is one of my favorite tropes. I don't know what it is, but just watching characters fall in love, sign a contract basically to not fall in love, is so fun for me. It had some cheesy moments, but I think it was really good. Those were all 11 books that I read in July. I'm proud of myself for getting through at least 11 books is still a lot of books. It just feels small because I set a number, which I probably won't be doing again. Got me holding up my ice pack. Oh my god, I cannot with myself today. I literally cannot with myself. Speaking of which, this video is over. I'm so glad that you guys all watched and I hope you enjoyed, and I love you all very much. And I will see you next Tuesday. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment so we can chat. I always respond to comments. Even if it's a week later, I'm responding to you because I love you. Goodbye.